So in this video, I want to explore a follow-up from the previous video, some of the wonderful comments that you make. And I read these. I don't always respond because sometimes they just inspire another video. Most of the time, well, so far, all the time, they inspire another video. So we could just keep going on and on like this. It'll be a fun ride. But the question is, do you trust the universe? And so what do we mean by you? And what do we mean by universe? Well, by universe, we could mean, you can use any word you want. These are just symbols. And for some people, they feel better using the word God. For other people, they feel better using the word consciousness. A lot of scientific types feel better if the word consciousness is in there. But it's anything that's actually fundamental, anything that's deeper than what we might consider this reality. And in the last video, I was making the point that not everyone goes into that deeper reality or buys into it or even feels its presence. So in the next video, I'm actually going to give you proof, at least the way I look at it, that there is a deeper reality than this, and it's all about creativity. And I may do that right after this video. But it's a trick question also, because what do you mean by you? So when I say, do you trust the universe? If you take that to mean ego, the ego never trusts anything. It's the ego's job to not trust anything. The ego is that eternal skeptic, and it only believes what it believes. And of course, everything it believes is right. Now remember, the ego has nothing to do with you personally. It has nothing to do with your body or your brain. It's a strange virus that connects people, and it's very tribal. And so the ego in you isn't really your ego at all. And so this tribal membership does extend out beyond your skull. And so it's not just you that's right, it's your group that's right, and it's everyone else that is wrong. So in that sense, there is some trust the ego has of itself, and that trust does sometimes extend out to its own members, but then it immediately distrusts anything that isn't within that group. So if I say, do you trust the universe, and you think I'm referring to your ego, well, no. You absolutely do not, because the ego doesn't trust anything beyond what it considers to be itself. But if we look at some of these old games we would play of trust, if you remember the game where you'd fall backwards, and it was this kind of test of trust, and if you fell backward, then you trusted the person to catch you behind you. It's an excellent game, because if you've ever played it, you might recall the ambiguity and the multiplicity. Like, part of you felt like you trusted them, but there's always a part where you fell back and it wasn't absolute 100% trust. Well, that was because your ego didn't trust them, probably. And but there was some part of you that did. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have fallen backward. Same thing is, for me, my ego has a hard time believing that a giant piece of metal can fly. And so every time I get on a plane, my ego has no trust at all. And yet I get on planes all the time and fly. In fact, we just had my son go in for surgery, and the ego has no trust at all. A bunch of strangers take your kid to another room and do all kinds of things, and but you let it happen. So some part of you must trust, and that's what I'm really getting at when I talk about the ego. It's not the part that trusts, but I'm talking about the part that does. What is it that allows you to fall backward, to get on that plane, to do things that the ego is worried about? Because that's why the ego worries. And so the whole time your kid's in surgery, you're worrying well, it's not you, it's your ego that's worrying, because your ego doesn't trust. And at the same time, there's some part of you that knows everything's going to be okay. And so when I ask you, do you trust the universe? What I'm really getting at is, do you feel something beyond the ego? In the Advaita Vedanta, they would put that as an uppercase, capital S. That's the self. That's something far bigger than the ego, and that's what's all interconnected. And because it's all interconnected, it is you that is both doing the trusting and also doing the trust. And so you already do trust the universe. It's just your ego doesn't know it.